Hey everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive here on the Book Summary Podcast. We're going to be unpacking some seriously insightful stuff today, and you guys know I love that.
Oh, yeah.
We are talking about the book Getting Past Your Past by
Yes.
Francine Shapiro. You might have heard of her. She developed EMDR therapy. And if you're finding this deep dive helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more book breakdowns. So this book is all about how those unprocessed memories, those moments that we try to bury deep down, they're actually shaping our thoughts, our feelings, and even our actions today.
Mm.
And what's so fascinating is that Shapiro doesn't just diagnose the problem. She gives us actual tools from EMDR therapy that we can use to understand and work through those memories. Think of it like finally cleaning out that junk drawer you've been avoiding. You know, the one.
Oh, yeah. What's really striking about this book is how it reveals the power of those unprocessed memories. These aren't just faded photographs in the back of our minds. They're often stored with the same raw emotional intensity as when they first happened. So imagine a filing cabinet where instead of memories being neatly labeled and filed away, certain memories are just shoved in haphazardly. They're bursting with energy that can spill out and affect everything else.
Right, it's like they're these little emotional time bombs just waiting to go off. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's the smallest things that trigger them, right?
Absolutely. The book really dives deep into how these seemingly insignificant events from our past can have a profound impact on our present. Shapiro uses this great analogy of the roses are red rhyme. We learn it as children.
Yeah.
And even years later, our minds automatically complete the phrase with violets are blue. And our emotional and behavioral responses can work in the same way, triggered by those deeply ingrained memory associations.
Yeah, it's like those knee-jerk reactions, but instead of your leg flying up, it's our emotions or behaviors going haywire. Makes you think twice about all those little moments that we tend to brush off, doesn't it?
Definitely. And the book highlights how these unprocessed memories can manifest in so many different ways. For instance, there's Justine, a successful woman in her 20s. Every time she goes through a breakup, she reacts like a terrified child. It turns out this stems from a childhood memory of a stormy night when she felt completely alone and abandoned by her parents.
Yeah, that story was so powerful. It really drives home the point that our reactions often have very little to do with what's happening in the present and everything to do with those unresolved emotions from the past.
Exactly. And the book doesn't shy away from the more extreme examples either. There's been a successful businessman crippled by anxiety every time he has to give a presentation. Through EMDR therapy, he discovers the root of his fear: childhood experiences of humiliation during school presentations. It's as if his brain is stuck in a time warp, reliving the same feelings even though he's an entirely different person now.
Okay, so we're seeing how these unprocessed memories can really mess with us. But where does EMDR fit into all of this?
So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's a psychotherapy approach that Shapiro discovered by accident.
Really?
Yeah, she noticed that lateral eye movements seemed to shift her own thoughts and feelings, almost like hitting a reset button for her brain. It was a total light bulb moment that led to years of research and development.
Wait, so just moving her eyes back and forth made a difference. That sounds almost too simple.
I know it does sound a bit out there, but the science behind it is fascinating. There's a growing body of research that supports its effectiveness. And it's been endorsed by organizations like the American Psychiatric Association. It's proven incredibly effective in treating trauma, anxiety, and other mental health challenges.
So it's not just some fringe therapy technique. There's real credibility behind it. But how does it actually work? Like, what's going on in the brain during EMDR?
Well, one of the leading theories is that the eye movements used in EMDR stimulate processes that are similar to what happens during REM sleep. You know how we often wake up feeling refreshed and like we've processed things after a good night's sleep? It's thought that during REM sleep, our brains are working through emotions and memories, helping us integrate those experiences. And EMDR seems to tap into that natural healing mechanism, allowing us to reprocess those distressing memories in a safe and controlled environment.
So it's like giving our brains a little nudge to do what they're already designed to do, but in a more targeted way.
Exactly. And what's so incredible about Shapiro's book is that she takes these complex principles of EMDR and breaks them down into practical self-help exercises that anyone can try. She gives us a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, and empowers us to become active participants in our own healing.
That's what I think makes this book so appealing. You don't have to be in therapy to benefit from these insights and techniques. Shapiro gives us the tools to start exploring our own unprocessed memories and start working towards a more peaceful and fulfilling life.
Yeah, and it's important to note that EMDR isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma. While it's been incredibly effective in treating PTSD, the principles can be applied to a much wider range of emotional struggles. It's really about recognizing that our past experiences, even the seemingly small ones, can have a ripple effect on our present, and then giving us the tools to navigate those challenges with greater awareness and resilience.
Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. What are some of those key techniques from the book that you think our listeners would find most helpful?
Well, one of the foundational techniques is creating a safe or calm place in your mind. It's about guiding yourself to a mental sanctuary, a place where you can fully access feelings of peace and safety.
Oh, I love this technique. It's
Yeah.
like having a mental escape hatch when things get overwhelming. You can just retreat to that safe place and regroup.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes the importance of practicing this regularly so it becomes second nature. It's like building a mental muscle for emotional resilience. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to access those feelings of peace and calm when you need them most.
It's like having a superpower,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Being
yeah.
able to calm yourself down in any situation.
Exactly. And the book offers a simple yet powerful way to create this safe space. It involves identifying a place, real or imagined, where you feel completely at ease. Maybe it's a childhood memory of being snuggled up in bed, or maybe it's a fantasy of being on a tropical beach.
Yeah, it's about finding what works for you, what resonates with you and makes you feel truly safe and secure.
Right. And then once you have that place in mind, you really want to engage all of your senses. What do you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel in this space? The more vivid you can make it, the more powerful it will become.
I'm going to try this. I think my safe place might be a hammock strung between two palm trees on a deserted beach.
That sounds lovely. And the key is to practice going to that place in your mind whenever you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Over time, you'll find that it becomes easier to access, and it can be a real lifesaver in those moments when you need to find a sense of calm.
I can't wait to give it a try.
Hmm.
What other techniques does Shapiro share in the book?
Another helpful one is called the float back technique, and it helps you uncover the root memory behind a strong emotional reaction you're having in the present. It's a powerful way to connect the dots between your past and present experiences.
So it's like being your own detective,
Mm.
uncovering those hidden memories that are driving your current behavior.
Precisely. And the book outlines a clear step-by-step process for doing this. You begin by focusing on a recent situation that triggered a strong emotional response. Then you really tune into the negative thoughts, feelings, and even physical sensations that came up for you. And then you sort of let your mind drift back in time following those sensations until you land on an earlier memory with a similar emotional charge.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like our bodies are holding on to these memories.
Yeah.
And by paying attention to those physical sensations, we can actually unlock the source of those feelings.
It's incredible, isn't it? Our bodies are so wise and they hold so much information. And this technique helps us tap into that innate wisdom. Shapiro even uses this technique to help people address physical symptoms that have no apparent medical explanation.
Oh, really?
Mm.
So you're saying that sometimes our physical pain can be a manifestation of unprocessed emotions.
Exactly. And the book has some pretty amazing stories about people who have found relief from chronic pain, panic attacks, and even unexplained illnesses by using EMDR to address those underlying emotional wounds.
Okay, mind blown. I'm definitely adding getting past your past to my reading list.
You won't regret it. It's packed with valuable insights and practical techniques that can really change your life. Welcome back. So picking up where we left off, I think it's fascinating how Shapiro emphasizes that EMDR isn't just for those big T traumas we often hear about. It's about recognizing how even seemingly insignificant experiences, those we might brush off as no big deal, can actually leave a mark on us.
You know, that really resonates with me. We all have those moments from childhood or even adulthood that we might try to forget, but they still linger somewhere in the back of our minds.
Exactly. And what Shapiro highlights is that just because an event might seem minor from an adult perspective, it doesn't mean it wasn't deeply impactful for us at the time. Our childhood selves experience things differently with different levels of understanding and coping mechanisms.
Right. It's like looking back at an old photo and cringing at that outfit you thought was so cool back then. You've grown and changed, but that memory and maybe even a bit of the feeling is still there.
That's a great analogy. And Shapiro encourages us to be kind to ourselves, to recognize that those experiences shaped us, but they don't define us. We didn't choose to have those experiences, and we didn't consciously choose to store them in a way that causes us pain.
Yeah, it's about letting go of that self-blame and understanding that our brains were just doing their best to protect us at the time.
Absolutely. And the good news is that even if those memories have been impacting us for years, it's never too late to reprocess them and free ourselves from that emotional baggage. And getting past your past offers a whole toolkit of techniques to help us do just that.
So let's dive into that toolkit. What are some of the things people can actually do to start working on those unprocessed memories? Besides the safe, calm place and the float back technique, of course.
Well, in addition to those, Shapiro introduces some really helpful self-control techniques that can be used in the moment when you're feeling triggered or overwhelmed. Think of them as little emergency tools for managing those big emotions when they pop up.
Okay. Like having a fire extinguisher handy, just in case things get a little heated.
Exactly. One technique she describes is called the cartoon character technique. It involves visualizing the person or situation that's triggering you as a cartoon character.
I love that. It sounds almost silly, but I can totally see how it would work.
Wait.
Taking away some of the power from that person or situation by turning it into something more lighthearted.
You got it. Shapiro explains that by transforming that image into something more humorous or less intense, it helps you detach from the raw emotions of the situation. You're basically shifting your perspective and taking back some of that control.
So it's not about denying or suppressing the emotion. It's about finding a healthier way to manage it. It's like saying, okay, you're big and scary, but I'm going to see you as a goofy cartoon character instead.
Exactly. And the book has some other really creative visualization techniques for dealing with intrusive thoughts or images. There's the paint can technique, where you imagine stirring those images away with a paint can, or the water hose or wet eraser techniques, where you visualize washing those thoughts away with water.
It's amazing how our minds can be so powerful. Just by shifting our focus and using our imagination, we can actually change how we feel and react.
Absolutely. And these techniques aren't just for managing emotional distress. They can also be incredibly helpful in dealing with stress and improving performance.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because a lot of our listeners are probably dealing with stress on a daily basis. What are some of Shapiro's recommendations for managing stress and reaching our full potential?
Well, she starts by acknowledging that stress is a normal part of life. We all experience it. But it's when stress becomes chronic and starts to negatively impact our health relationships and overall well-being that it becomes a problem.
Right. It's like that tipping point where stress goes from being a motivator to something that's actually holding us back.
That's a great way to put it. And Shapiro emphasizes the importance of recognizing those early signs of stress and taking proactive steps to manage it before it spirals out of control.
So it's about being in tune with our bodies and minds and noticing those subtle cues that tell us we're starting to feel overwhelmed. It's like paying attention to that little warning light on your car's dashboard before the engine blows up.
That's such a good analogy. We often ignore those warning signs until things get really bad.
Yep.
But Shapiro encourages us to tune in and listen to our body's wisdom.
So what are some practical ways to do that? What tools does she offer?
One of the techniques she outlines is a sequence called the 4 elements procedure. It's a way of grounding yourself and managing stress by connecting with each of the 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire.
Okay, that sounds interesting. How does that work? Do I need to go build a bonfire or something?
No bonfires required. It's more about connecting with the essence of each element in a symbolic way. Each element represents a different aspect of self-care and stress management. For example, the earth element focuses on grounding and feeling safe and connected to the present moment.
So it's about bringing ourselves back down to earth, literally.
Exactly. It could involve physically feeling your feet on the ground or taking a few moments to really notice your surroundings. It's about anchoring yourself to the present moment and reminding yourself that you're safe and secure.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in our heads and lose touch with the present moment.
And then the air element focuses on breathing and using your breath to center yourself and calm your nervous system.
Breathing. The simplest yet most powerful tool we have.
Right. And Shapiro reminds us that when we're stressed, our breathing tends to become shallow and rapid. But by consciously slowing down our breath, we can signal to our bodies that it's okay to relax.
It's like hitting that internal pause button, giving ourselves a moment to reset.
Exactly. And then there's the water element, which focuses on cleansing and releasing.
Okay, what does that look like? Do I need to jump in a cold shower?
Not necessarily. It could involve taking a warm bath, drinking a glass of water, or even just visualizing washing away any stress or negativity you're carrying. It's about finding a way to symbolically cleanse yourself, both physically and emotionally.
I like that. It's like hitting the refresh button on your emotions.
And last but not least, the fire element focuses on energy and passion. It's about reconnecting with that inner spark, with the things that light you up and give you a sense of purpose.
Though this is where things get interesting. So it's not just about relaxation, it's also about fueling our passions and living a life that's meaningful and fulfilling.
Exactly. It might involve engaging in activities you love, spending time with people who inspire you, or simply taking a few moments to visualize yourself achieving your goals and living a life that aligns with your values. It's about remembering what lights you up and bringing more of that into your life.
That's a really powerful reminder. Sometimes when we're stressed, we tend to focus on all the things that are wrong or all the things we need to fix. But this fire element reminds us to also focus on what brings us joy and what makes life worth living.
You got it. And the four elements procedure is just one of many tools Shapiro offers for managing stress and enhancing performance. She also talks about the importance of setting realistic expectations, breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps, and of course, practicing self-compassion.
Right? It's like creating a whole toolkit of strategies that we can use to navigate the ups and downs of life and not just survive, but actually thrive.
That's the goal. And you know what's really inspiring is how Shapiro dedicates a whole section to helping people achieve peak performance, not just in terms of managing stress, but actually excelling in their chosen field.
So this is about going beyond just getting by to actually unlocking our full potential and living extraordinary lives.
Yes. She talks about how these EMDR principles can be used to help athletes, performers, executives, anyone who wants to excel in their chosen field.
So it's about taking those same tools that we use for healing and applying them to reaching new heights in our personal and professional lives.
Precisely. And one of the key techniques she introduces for performance enhancement is called the future template.
Okay, now that sounds intriguing. What is that all about?
It's a visualization technique where you essentially guide yourself through an imagined scenario of yourself performing successfully. It's like creating a mental blueprint for success.
So it's like a mental dress rehearsal.
Exactly. And Shapiro explains that by repeatedly visualizing yourself, achieving your goals, and overcoming challenges, you're essentially creating new neural pathways in your brain that make it more likely for you to succeed in real life.
It's like programming your mind for success. I love
It's
that.
a powerful technique.
Yeah.
And it's not just about picturing the outcome. It's about engaging all of your senses, feeling the emotions, and even anticipating potential obstacles and how you would overcome them.
So it's about creating a really vivid and detailed mental experience, almost like you're actually living it.
You got it. And the book is full of stories of how people have used this future template technique to achieve amazing things. Athletes winning competitions, performers delivering flawless performances, and even people overcoming social anxiety and building stronger relationships.
It's incredible how our minds can be such powerful tools for creating the life we want.
And Shapiro emphasizes that while visualization is a powerful tool, it's important to combine it with action. It's about using those mental rehearsals to prepare yourself for real-life challenges, and then taking those steps to make those visions a reality.
So it's like the mental preparation sets the stage, but then we have to show up and do the work.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really empowering message because it reminds us that we're not just passive recipients of our circumstances. We have the power to shape our own lives and create our own destinies.
So it's about taking ownership of our thoughts, feelings, and actions and recognizing that we have the power to create the life we want.
Exactly. And you know what's equally fascinating is how the book explores the connection between our personal struggles and those larger social issues.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and that our individual healing can contribute to collective healing.
Right. So it's about taking a more holistic approach to healing and growth, recognizing that we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves.
You got it. Shapiro touches on how understanding the impact of trauma can lead to greater compassion and understanding in our interactions with others. She talks about how recognizing the role that unprocessed memories can play in behaviors like addiction, violence, or even prejudice can help us move beyond judgment and seek solutions that address those underlying causes.
Right. It's a powerful reminder that healing isn't just a personal journey. It's something that can have a ripple effect on families, communities, and the world around us.
Absolutely. And Shapiro emphasizes that while we can't change the past, we can choose how we respond to it. We can choose to break those cycles of trauma and create a more just and compassionate world.
That's such a hopeful and inspiring message. It's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, both in our own lives and in the world around us.
And what's really interesting is how Shapiro highlights the power of connection and community in the healing process. She talks about the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who love and support us, people who believe in our capacity for healing and growth.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that we don't have to go through this alone. We all need support, especially when we're facing difficult challenges.
And she also talks about the power of giving back to others, of using our own experiences to help others heal and grow. It's like turning our wounds into wisdom and offering that wisdom to others who might be struggling.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. It's like saying, I've been through this and I know it's possible to heal, and I want to help you find that healing too.
And Shapiro's work extends beyond individual healing. She's also been instrumental in developing programs that use EMDR to help communities heal from collective trauma, like natural disasters, war, and other forms of collective violence.
So it's about scaling up those individual healing practices to address those larger societal wounds and create a more peaceful and just world.
Exactly. And one of the examples that really stuck with me was the story of how EMDR was used to help children in Mexico who had been traumatized by a devastating hurricane.
Well, I remember reading about that. It was about how they use a technique called the butterfly hug to help those children process their trauma.
That's right. And it's a beautiful example of how these simple yet powerful techniques can be used to help people of all ages and backgrounds find healing and resilience, even in the face of incredible adversity.
It's about tapping into our innate capacity for healing and finding ways to support each other through those difficult times.
And Shapiro believes that this potential for healing exists within each and every one of us.
That's a powerful message of hope, and I think it's a perfect place to pause for now. But we have so much more to unpack from Getting Past Your Past in the next part.
We do. If you're finding this deep dive valuable, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the Book Summary podcast channel for more book breakdowns that can help you live a richer and more fulfilling life.
See you in part 3. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Francine Shapiro's Getting Past Your Past. As we've been talking about all the different aspects of this book, it's really striking how EMDR goes beyond just addressing individual trauma.
Yeah, it really does. Shapiro's work has been instrumental in applying these principles to help entire communities heal from shared traumatic experiences. It's like taking those individual healing tools and amplifying their effects on a much larger scale.
That's a really powerful concept. So you're saying that EMDR can be used to address not just individual trauma, but also the collective trauma that communities experience as a result of things like war, natural disasters, or social injustice.
Exactly. And Shapiro has worked extensively with survivors of those types of events, using EMDR to help them process their shared experiences and find a sense of collective healing and resilience.
One of the examples that really stood out to me was the story about how EMDR was used to help a community in Rwanda heal from the aftermath of the genocide. It's hard to even imagine the level of trauma that those people experienced.
It was a horrific event, and the trauma was widespread. But what's so inspiring is how EMDR was used to help people process the trauma of witnessing unspeakable violence and losing loved ones, and to help them begin to rebuild their lives and communities.
It wasn't just about addressing those individual psychological wounds. It was also about rebuilding a sense of community and fostering forgiveness and reconciliation, which are essential for healing on a larger scale.
Yeah. Shapiro's work in these areas really highlights the transformative potential of EMDR. It's not just a therapy, it's a movement towards healing and creating a more just and compassionate world.
And that brings us back to the individual level. For anyone who's listening and wants to learn more about EMDR and how to apply these techniques to their own lives, Shapiro's book, Getting Past Your Past, is an incredible resource.
Absolutely. It's a very accessible and practical guide that can help you understand the impact of those unprocessed memories and start taking steps towards your own healing journey.
And Shapiro provides a lot of great resources in the book, including a list of therapists who are trained in EMDR. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, please don't hesitate to reach out for professional support. There's no shame in asking for help. In fact, it's often the bravest and most empowering thing you can do.
That's so true. It's like having a guide to help you navigate those challenging emotional terrains.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to emphasize that while the journey of healing can be challenging at times, it's ultimately a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. It's about recognizing your own resilience and your capacity for love, joy, and connection. And it's about believing in the possibility for transformation, even in the face of adversity.
Shapiro offers a really profound insight that I'd like to share as we close. She writes that sometimes the most profound healing comes from recognizing that we're not alone in our struggles. By sharing our stories and connecting with others who have walked similar paths, we can find a sense of belonging, compassion, and hope that can fuel our own journeys of transformation.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. We're all in this together, and even in those dark times, there's always the possibility for connection, healing, and growth. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into getting past your past, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode with anyone who might benefit from these insights. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of healing.